full stop, and landing 13 left if that's available.
Papa Hotel Tango, India Mike, Palm Springs Tower, squawk 6250.
6250.
Papa Hotel Tango, India Mike, Palm Springs altimeter is 2985, radar contact about 10 miles west of the Palm Springs VOR. Presently landing runway 31, you're requesting straight in for 13.
If that's available, yes please.
Correction, Papa Hotel Tango, India Mike, make straight in runway 13 left, and clear to land. Wind is 0905.
Clear to land, runway 3 left, Papa Hotel Tango, India Mike, thanks.
Palm Springs clearance plus 4658 is type PC12 slam golf, request clearance to Vegas S-file.
Palace 4658, Palm Springs clearance. Good afternoon. Unable to give you S-file, and I'll be full route standby. Palace 4658 is cleared to the Las Vegas airport. VFI Cathedral 1 departure procedure to Palm Springs. Victor 370 to 29 Palms. Victor 538. Cresso. Joining Cresso 3 arrival. Maintain 7,000. Check flight level 2. 405 minutes after departure. Departure frequency 126.7. Squawk 6316.
Palm Springs, Victor 37029, Palms, Victor 538, Cresso 3, initially climb 7,000 expected to after 5, departure 167, plus 6316 plus 465.
Pause 4658, reback is correct. Tango, you might taxi to RAM via Echo remaining frequency.
Taxiing to the ramp via Echo, remaining on this frequency, Papa Hotel Tango, India Mike.
Ontario Tower, Cessna 237 Charlie Alpha, approximately 4 miles to the west, inbound to land.
Number 237, Charlie Alpha, roger, inner left to traffic. Left downwind runway 26 left, port base.
Enter left downwind 26 left and McCoy base 237 Charlie Alpha.
Charlie Tower, United 242 on the visual for 20 right, will be turning for a right base shortly.
United 242, John Wayne Tower, runway 20 right, clear to land, wind 170, level 3.
Clear to land, 20 right, United 242.
Tower, Kilo ILS 4.
Near 520 Yankee Kilo, Palomar Tower, runway 24, clear to land, wind 210 at 11. Number 237, Charlie Alpha, runway 26 left, clear to land.
26 left, clear to land 7 Charlie Alpha.
Palm Springs ground plus 4658, Eastern weather going for taxi.
Palace 4658, Palm Springs ground, runway 31 right, taxi via Echo and Bravo.
Trail right via Echo Brown 465.
Riverside Tower, good morning, November 2903 Alpha with you on the island.
Number 2903 Alpha, Riverside Tower, good afternoon. Runway 9 clear low approach, report to minutes.
November 2903 Alpha, low approach, runway 9, next report 6.
Palm Springs Tower plus 465 return to trail right at Brown.
Pause 4658, Palm Springs Tower, runway 31 right, clear for takeoff.
Shift takeoff to right plus 465.
Palomar Tower, Airbus Kilo 284.
Near 0 Yankee Kilo, arch taxi into the ramp via Alpha.
Via Alpha.
Pause 4658, contact SoCal departure.
Contact departure 465.
Cessna 7 Charlie Alpha is clearly active, taxi to the G8 parking booth.
Number 7 Charlie Alpha, remain on this frequency, taxi to the south ramp via Sierra.
Southbound via Sierra with you, 7 Charlie Alpha, thanks.
November 2903 Alpha going around.
Number 03 Alpha, confirm going around or going missed?
November 2903 Alpha going missed.
Number 03 Alpha, roger, execute the published missed approach procedure.
Flying the published missed approach procedure. November 2903.
Hyper 2903 Alpha, contact SoCal departure.
Contact departure, 03 Alpha.
Number 03 Alpha, departure frequency will be 135.4.
135.4 for departure.
Ontario Tower, November 516 Delta, Mike, inbound ILS 26 left.
Number 516 Mike, Ontario Tower. Good afternoon, Ontario. Wind is calm. Runway 26 left, clear to land.
26 left, clear to land, 6 total. Ontario Tower, November 36. Correction, 516 Delta, Mike, clear the active at uniform, taxiing to the South Apron.
Number 6 Delta Mike, roger, taxi in the south ramp via Sierra. Remain on this frequency.
Via Sierra on this frequency 6 Delta.
Riverside Tower,
03 Alpha, Riverside Tower, runway 27, clear to land.
Clear land on runway 27, 03 Alpha. Riverside Cloud, November 2903 Alpha, in Alpha, request taxi to the transient point.
Number 2903 Alpha, Riverside ground. In the future, don't switch to the ground frequency unless you're told to do so. You should stay with tower, exiting the runway all the way to the hold short point. Stay on this frequency for now, taxi to ramp via Alpha.
Taxi to ramp via Alpha, and runway. Number 2903 Alpha.
Runway clearance, November 6th, Charlie Mike, Cherokee. I would like to attempt the I-4 rating today.
Cherry 76 Charlie Mike, John Wayne clearance. Good evening, good luck on the I-4 destination. Will be, let's go with Kilo, Oscar, X-ray, Romeo.
That's Kilo, Oscar, X-ray, Romeo. 628 Mike.
Yes, sir, good luck.
I'm going to sign off and collect some information for this destination. I'll sign back in. Okay?
Absolutely. Just report when you're back with the I-4. And how long do you think it'll be? It's not going to be more than an hour, is it?
No. I have to file and get some charts in place.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'll still be here, so it shouldn't be a problem. And we'll look for your flight plan to come through. What's your plans then?
Las Vegas Tower Class 4658 is unusual when on your right for 1500.
Plus 4658, Las Vegas Tower, runway 19 right, clear to land, wind 1807.
Clear to land, 19 right 465.
Plus 658, exit right, taxi into the ramp via hotel, remain on this frequency today.
Exit right, ramp via hotel, main frequency 58, 465.
Ground number 95 for Whiskey Alpha's Hyperge, Comanche PA2 for Sloan Alpha. Like taxi to exit VFR east departure with the weather.
Calling Long Beach Ground, need you to verify your call sign, please.
Sorry about that. 916 Whiskey Alpha, November 916 Whiskey Alpha.
Comanche 9016 Whiskey Alpha, Long Beach Ground, roger. And just confirm VFR eastbound.
Eastbound and east ramp just south of runway 25.
Comanche 9016 Whiskey Alpha, roger, runway 26 right, taxi to Kilo.
Okay, 25 right, 8 Kilo, 916 Whiskey Alpha. Long Beach Tower, November 916 Whiskey Alpha, holding short at 25 right, Kilo, ready for departure, depart east.
Ground 16 Whiskey Alpha, Long Beach Tower, runway 25 right, clear for takeoff, right down with departure, approved.
Clear for takeoff 25 right, right down with departure, 6 Whiskey Alpha.
Good day, Palm Springs, ground standing up hotel, Tango, East Ramp, India, close traffic, 31 right.
Hotel Tango tonight, Palm Springs, ground, say dinner company.
Gray, Cessna Sky.
Skywing Tango, any Mike, thank you, runway 31 right, taxi via Echo and Bravo.
Echo and Bravo, 31 right.
Rear center, 791 Juliet, towards ground left.
Okay, Sky 791 Juliet. We see there's no clearance delivery with this field, so would we get our departure instructions with tower or with ground?
Always go with the lowest, so we'll start with ground, just say your intentions.
Okay, Sky 791 Juliet, type Cessna 172 on the south Angus with numbers requesting VFR advisories to jump on.
Number 791 Juliet, roger, departure frequency 134.9er, squawk 2061.
1349, that's 2061.
Got 901 Juliet, read back is correct, are you ready to taxi now?
In a couple of minutes, just go down and just Sky 791 Juliet, south Angus.
Sky 791 Juliet, roger, runway 29 right. Taxi via hotel, correction, taxi via Alpha in Juliet.
29 right, taxi via Alpha and Juliet, Sky 791 Juliet. Palm Springs Tower, Skyline Papa Del Tango, Mike is runway short runway 31 right, Bravo, and ready for departure, close traffic.
Hello everyone, welcome to another stream. So yeah, we're going to continue this wonderful IFR training, flying instrument approaches. And today we're going to do some weird stuff. We're going to fly a localizer back course approach So that means using a localizer and step down stuff using the chart, but with reverse sensing. We're doing a back course where we're approaching the localizer from the other side. So that's already a bit weird. And I would also like to do a circling approach. So we're going to use a localizer, that back course localizer approach, to get to a particular runway. But then once we hit our minimum decision height, I'm going to request, or hopefully we'll get clearance to do so, fly around, circle around, kind of like a traffic pattern, but a little bit more tight and a little bit more lower to the ground to another runway, just underneath the cloud base. So that's going to be pretty exciting. I'm very curious to see what ATC will do, and obviously again whether we will be allowed to do so. I think so, but we'll have to see. It's going to be exciting. 737, thank you for the follow earlier. Thanks. Welcome here on the stream. So we are currently at Santa Barbara Airport. That's a very nice Charlie class airport, as you can see here. Long time no see. In my case, really nice scenery here, and I set my own weather. As always, especially with practicing these IFR approaches, it is nice to set your own cloud layer base just a little bit above the minimum decision height so that you really challenge yourself with flying on instruments on the approach to then discover whether you are right on track across the center line when you leave the clouds. I think that's really, really exciting. It makes the stuff a little bit more immersive. So that's what I did. This is a cloud base starting from, I think, 1,200 feet AGL up to 3,500 AGL. And we're going to cruise at around 6,000 initially, 4,500, and then get into that localizer approach quite quickly, actually, into Santa Maria Airport, which is very, very nearby. There it already is. This is our entire track. So the initial approach fix of our approach that I will show you in just a second already starts with the San Marcos Vortex. And the San Marcos Vortex is just a little bit north of Santa Barbara. So basically, we will depart from Santa Barbara, go up to about 6,000 feet or so, and we're already on the approach for Santa Maria. And then we're going to get to Santa Maria and land on the other way, runway 12. Using circling, hopefully. And that kind of looks like this. This is the approach, the localizer DME backcourse approach alpha. That alpha dash alpha thing suggests that it's not really aligned to any particular runway. So this is just basically getting into the runway, but if you look at the localizer itself here for Santa Maria, you can see it's pretty much aligned with runway 30, which is really, really good. So I'm not quite sure why it's not saying 30 here on the top. I think because it is a back course approach. It's not really a localizer specifically made for 30, and that's why it's automatically dash alpha. It's not really specific for that runway, even though it's nicely lined up. Interestingly, you might think that flying a back course localizer is pretty much the same as flying a regular localizer approach that was specifically made for that runway center line, you could say. But that's not entirely true. Usually localizers and ILS systems are positioned at the end of the runway, at the far end of the runway where you land on, and that means that when we fly a back course of a localizer on this side, and you can see it's already pointed, also indicated here on the map, here the localizer obviously is now at the beginning of the runway, right? Because we're approaching the localizer from the other end, and that means that the band, the range, the range of the localizer, the back course range that we're about to fly, is much more narrow than a usual localizer approach, and that makes it a little bit more sensitive. So that's the main practical thing that we're gonna, well, that's not really two. That's one of the two things that's going to be noticeable. I think also here in X-Plane that the localizer will be a bit more sensitive as we approach the airport. And secondly, obviously, because it's a back course approach, the needling on the nav1 will be reversed, right? So we're actually flying the needle in the opposite direction. So rather than flying towards the needle, we now need to actually pull the needle towards the center, which is going to be confusing because I'm so used to just tracking the needle also with VFR navigation, just flying towards the needle, but now we need to do the other way around. So that's going to be interesting. That's the main practical difference, I think. And again, for me, because I'm so new to IFR flying, I will also need to learn or further develop or become more familiar with doing these step-down descents, because with a localizer we are only provided the localizer guidance, only lateral guidance, no vertical guidance through our cockpit instruments. That vertical guidance is only depicted here on the profile view. Also a bit here on the plan view, by the way, but we need to infer our right vertical glide slope, vertical path, vertical approach based off of this chart. And so we need to read and watch our instruments at the same time, which makes this a bit more challenging. Previously, I was flying a VOR approach, which is essentially the same. You're also only provided lateral guidance, right, through the VOR, through your instruments. Thanks for the follow, IMEC. Thank you. Welcome on the stream. Appreciate the support. But now with the so with the VOR I had the exact same challenge, and I noticed that it is a bit more difficult. It's a little bit more multitask. I mean, it's not intellectually challenging, but more like cognitive load kind of. It demands a little bit more, requires a little bit more mental processing, I guess, and especially because I'm so unfamiliar, it takes a bit more mental resources. So while I'm flying, specifically though here, I need to be very, very mindful of these DMEs that you can see for the different fixes here. So based off of the localizer that we will set soon, once we hit, for example, when we start our actual approach here into Santa Maria, once we hit Cokes at 11.6 DME from the localizer SMX, or Santa Maria, we need to descend to 3,000 feet and not any lower before we hit Chemco, 5.8 nautical miles. And so we step down, and the idea is, even though this suggests that we need to glide down on a average glide slope, like with an ILS, it would be actually much more safe and much more wise to really go down much faster, like we talked about previously, also in the previous stream, I think. Namely, like this, and then like this, and then it becomes also a little bit more like a step-down approach. So rather than going down around 500 feet per minute, it's better actually to go down by around 800 feet per minute. So you're early, right? And what I wasn't quite aware of with my VOR approach previously, and it went all okay because I had a visual of the runway. But if I hadn't got a visual, if I didn't see the airport in time, once I was further down the approach, then it would be a bit of a problem. Because with a ILS, when you're provided vertical guidance through your cockpit instruments, right, 2 needles that show you what you need to do, then obviously the only thing that you need to determine your missed approach point, or your missed approach point, is once you hit a particular altitude, right? Then you know that you actually reached also laterally the furthest that you can go before you need to execute your missed approach if you don't see the runway. But if you are flying a non-precision approach, like a VOR approach, where you're not provided any vertical guidance, only lateral guidance, like in this case, it's DME in this case, or timings, which I should also incorporate in my flying. So either way, it's 0.5 nautical miles from the localizer. Once we hit that and we have the runway or the runway area not in sight, we need to execute our missed approach. Or in case we don't have DME, or our DME fails on us while we are flying, there's another. It's in that sense it would be a little bit of a redundancy, but I should drill and practice this as well, is once we hit our final approach fix around here at Chemco, and we fly almost precisely 90 knots. Clear, thank you. Oh, we don't have a table here. Well, perhaps it's the same. That's curious. Don't know why it's not here. It was with my VOR approach. I need to study that more, I guess. Usually there's also a table here at the airport view here that shows you the time, the the number of minutes that it would take you to fly from your final approach fix to your missed approach point. And so even though if you don't have DME, you can still do that. Well, perhaps because this is a backcourse approach, localizer approach, they say you have to have DME, and that's perhaps also why it's depicted here on the title of the chart, localizer DME approach. We have to have DME. Sometimes it's also even mentioned here on the plan view like DME required, but I don't see it. I think it's because it's in the title. Hey Finish, good to see you. It helps you to think you're pulling the localizer with you when you're flying the backcourse. Exactly, that's what the King's School John and Martha is saying as well. But still, it's going to be a little bit confusing, I think, because just intuitively I'm so used to, obviously, just to fly towards the needle that I think I need to be very mindful, consciously mindful while I'm flying. Hey Taco, good to see you as well. Hope you're doing well. Hey, Marcus is hosting. Appreciate that, Marcus. Thanks. Okay, so yes, so well in this case we don't. I guess because we're flying a backcourse approach here. The ATC just requires us to fly on DME. That's why we don't see that little table here with the timings of how much time it would take us for given altitude, particular airspeeds. Usually it's 60, 90, or 120 or something like that. They don't give you any minutes to fly from your final approach fix to your missed approach point. I think that's the reason here. So in this case, we are solely reliant on our DME indication here. So that means that once I hit pay dirt at 2 nautical miles from the localizer, again, the same drill applies. I need to step down to my minimum decision height, right? And that will be for circling 1100 feet MSL or 839 feet AGL. Here, it's particularly important to already fly at your minimum decision height, to step down, to be early on your altitude, because then obviously you don't have to do multiple things at the same time. Looking outside to spot the visual of the runway while you're still doing your descent and hoping that you're there in time. But also, obviously, if this is really a concern to you and you really got a low-hanging cloud base, you like to be clear from clouds as soon as possible. Right, and in the section before here at the 1720, obviously we cannot go to our minimum decision height of 1100 feet because of obstacles or whatever it may be. So you like to be as low as you can possibly be at the soonest, so you're out, then you're clear of the clouds and you can already spot the airport. Right, that's the whole challenge. So that's also important. I wasn't that conscious of that while I did my VOR approach into Burbank the other day. And also just to be more mindful of these different DME numbers, DME distances, rather than just looking at the chart each and every time when I cross a particular fix here, because it's not the, especially for Peter and the missed approach point. Yeah, that's just 1.5 nautical miles, so that time goes quick. It goes quick, the particular lag, especially even though when we're flying a 172, which is relatively a slow flying aircraft. Yeah, those are lessons learned or things that I was still thinking about given that previous flight. Hey Alex, good to see you too. So yeah, so if that wasn't just a challenge enough, and it's just plain excitement. Perhaps I'm getting myself into too much trouble, but I'm just loving IFR flying, and not just the flying itself, but just the intellectual dimension of flying, just the IFR system, that academic study almost. I just appreciate the thoroughness or the how tight the system actually is and how well it works. It's just amazing. I can just sit with a cup of tea looking at different approach plays and just have a good time without even having a joke or sitting behind my computer. So a localizer backcourse approach I think is already quite interesting, given also that reverse sensing trick that's definitely going to confuse me and trick me up. In addition to that, I would also like to try to circle. And you can see here, which is also so confusing, here for the minimums, the minimum decision heights, there's only one category, circling. Now, when I was reading this for the first time, circling, like a dummy I am, or dummy, like the noob I am, I guess, I thought, okay, so circling means that the only way to land here at Santa Maria using this approach is to circle around and not go straight in, because then there would be an S and a dash, but that's not true. This is not a procedure, it's just a, well, particular decision height, you could say. So we can still do a straight in landing into runway 30 in this case, when we would just fly into this runway, just nicely lined up here with our reverse localizer, inverse localizer, even though this is circling. So this only refers to decision height. We could also circle around to another runway, but still, it's a bit confusing, at least to me. So what I would like to do is, rather than going straight into 30 using the backcourse approach here, I like to use this approach to get down to the airport and then circle around to runway 12, the other runway, from the other side, if that's possible. Don't know whether ATC will allow me to do that. And it's going to be exciting, and chances are that I will fail doing this because there's a lot going on and I'm still quite unfamiliar with flying approaches, but it's just fun. And again, guys, failing or challenging yourself, I don't care about failure at all. Especially, I mean, that's the greatest value of PilotEdge in a way. It's a practice. It's a practice environment. It's a learning environment. And I also found, that's also true for my VFR flying, doing the CAT ratings and stuff, is that especially more experience-based learning is so much more effective than only studying, let alone it's much more, it saves you a lot of money in comparison to doing this stuff in the real world. It might even be impossible. But yeah, that's also why I like the challenge. Hey, Dad, good to see you. And Keith, welcome. 620 feet to lose in one, that's relatively steep. Yeah, if you're doing 90 knots off the ground, that's yeah, I was thinking about that as well. Straight in minimums aren't possible because the descent gradient for MD Toronto is too steep. Yes. Yeah, so it could be either two, if I understand it correctly, there are either two kinds of dimensions at which a approach can be non-standard. It could be laterally, that the angle is greater than 30 degrees or so that the center line or the particular approach is not really aligned with the center line. So you come at the runway from an angle, which is the same also true for VOR approach or an LDA approach. I found it that's what we're going to do next, guys. In the next stream, an LDA approach, but I found one that was so freaking weird. It was an LDA approach into Van Nuys Airport, but we're using the localizer of Burbank, and we're hitting our intended runway perpendicular. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do next. So much fun. Just to give you an example of how weird these approaches can be, or well, how flexible, I guess, how much ATC trusts us that we can do this stuff even in IMC. That's really exciting. But referring to those minimum or to those descent rates that Keith was referring to, the King Schools recommends pilots, student pilots, IFR pilots, to therefore always try to descend as, well, not as fast as you can, but for the 172 pilots out there, like me here, to always do your step downs here with a rate of 800 feet per minute, which is already quite steep, but that you're pretty much sure, I think very sure, that you're always on time making your descents here. So that's what I'm going to do as well, to make that a habit, rather than just figuring out, oh, I now need to calculate it for this particular leg. I need to go at least 623 feet per minute downwards. Just go 800 feet per minute every time, and then I know that I'm pretty much safe. As long as I don't go through those minimum altitudes here, obviously. Yeah, so that's the idea. So I'm hoping that ATC will allow me to do this using the back course approach. That wouldn't be a problem, I guess. But then to circle around to land on the other side of the runway, runway 12. Now, I thought initially that I would fly in real-world weather, like I always like to do. And we got IMC, but the weather's actually already improving, and I really get a lot of value of just setting my own weather, especially when practicing these approaches when I'm actually in the clouds, in the soup while I'm doing the approach, and that I will clear from the clouds when I'm very near to my minimum decision altitude. So that's what I did for today. So we got, what did I say, 1100 feet, I think, AGL of a cloud base up to 3500. And looking at the chart here, what I like to do is just depart Santa Barbara, go up to about 6,000 feet. Perhaps we can, perhaps ATC would also allow us to fly this already at 4,600 feet. I'm not sure. We'll have to see 6,000 from San Marcos as our initial approach fix, and then get into Santa Maria with reverse sensing. Localizer. It's going to be interesting. And also, what's very important, I mean, I need to just, it's also just for the sake of my own learning here, I'm just repeating myself, but it's important. Altimeter settings. I need to also find a way, a good timing, a consistent way to tuning into ADAS. And with VFR flying, it's not, well, not really that consistent. I don't have a really set time where I'm think, oh, now I should, I mean, usually I would say, well, 25 nautical miles out from my destination airport, or whether I'm closer, obviously with a more shorter cross-range, cross-country flight, I would check in with ADAS. But I should also do the same here with my IFR flights, obviously. Perhaps Keith, if he's still here. Let me see, guys. Same deal at SMO. Oh, Roger. 737, is there any email address I could contact you on? Yes, sir. Tim at UncertifiedPilot.com, or Twitter, or through Twitch. Tim at UncertifiedPilot.com. The LDAC. Oh, interesting. Drop and drop, baby. I'm a fan. You're welcome, 737. But I had a question for Keith, if he's still here. Yes, I noticed in reviewing my previous flights when I did my approaches that obviously once I check in with departure, once I departed from my airport, that I get a altimeter setting for that particular en route section, or usually now my flights are so short practicing these approaches that there's actually no en route section, but still. At what time, at what moment am I actually allowed to reset my altimeter setting based on the ADAS of my destination airport? Because still TRACON is relying on me using a particular altimeter setting to make sure that all the aircraft fly on the same altitude. So my question is, when is it a safe time for me as a pilot to reset my altimeter setting to my destination airport altimeter thing, barometric pressure, without confusing TRACON? That's my question. Or perhaps some of you guys already know this as well. Let me know. I'm not quite clear on that. Oh man, I'm thirsty. Anyways, so that's the idea for today. And yeah, a high probability of failure, or what I should say, learning. We're doing new things, multiple new things at the same time. Yeah, as I said, my own weather, cloud base. Here's our cute little Cessna 172, a general aviation amp. I think it's the Atlantic FBO. I think it is. Atlantic, yeah, wonderful scenery here. I think again by GPB 500. Great scenery if you're an X-plane flyer, especially when you're also a PilotEdge subscriber flying in the Southern California region. Make sure to check out the GPB 500's scenery pack. I think it already covers 30 airports or so. Orbix-like scenery. It's really, really great. Also with photo real textures. It's really, really awesome. Continue. That's a good question. I typically don't set it until they issue it. but I'm not sure it's procedurally incorrect to set it based on the ATIS. Honestly, if you're able to pick up the ATIS, it means you're pretty close to the field, and I can't think of any cases where it's a problem if you swap at that time. Yeah. Yes, so you could say, obviously, airports are part of a bigger airspace section that you guys are controlling. And so this would only be an issue, I guess, when the airport would be at the edge of such a controlling airspace that handles just one particular consistent altimeter setting. And when I'm approaching that airport from a section, an adjacent airspace controlling section that uses another altimeter setting. But I guess that's not really very likely. Because in case of Keith, in case of this flight, I guess this is also a very short range flight. It could be the case that we got the same altimeter setting for Santa Barbara and Santa Maria. So I think I'm already capable of tuning in to the ATIS frequency of Santa Maria from here, or perhaps not because of the mountains here in between, but just as a rule of thumb, then already sign into ATIS as soon as you can and just use it. The pressure difference between the last issued by ATC and where you are now is unlikely to be significant. Yes, not enough to cause an issue. If you're 0, if you're close enough to get the ATIS, ATC should give you the altimeter for your destination anyways, pretty much. All right, guys. Thank you. Interesting. Okay, grab the ATIS as soon as you can. Makes sense. And also, just with the chart, I mean, if you look at the approach plate, all of these altitudes, I guess that these would then also be based of the fact that the pilot already has the altimeter setting of that destination airport, right? So in the least, you should already have the ATIS before you arrive at your initial approach fix. So that's a very concrete rule, if that's okay, to say, well, before you arrive at your initial approach fix, you should be already close enough to your airport and already be tuned into ATIS, already listen to ATIS, and have your altimeter setting done. In real life, you would not be able to pick up SMX from the ground. No, perhaps not. But I'm just looking for some kind of rule that I can follow rather than just be a little bit fuzzy about it. But perhaps that's a bit too difficult to have one rule of thumb here. So this is the flight. Yeah, and what I am not going to do today is, like with the other days, is to do the full walk around. We're not going to do that. Perhaps I'm going to do that once we're going to start our en route flight. My complete IFR flights that I'm going to do in my next stage of training. So first I'd like to tick off all the different kinds of approaches just because I like to. We could also already do some IFR flights, but I'm a little bit neurotic here and just like to practice those in a more isolated way. So that's what I'm doing. But when I'm going to do my first full IFR flights, perhaps then I'm also going to include my walkarounds. In a way, I mean, the real educational value for me doesn't lie, obviously, in the external walkaround anymore. But it does give me a sense of immersion, or I don't know. Alrighty. Seatbelts. My real seatbelts on my office chair, obviously, need to be fastened. Let me see. Door closed. Alrighty. Let's see. What do we have? Ah! Yeah, that's not good. I already turned on my batteries, and I don't know why I do that. Because usually I'm doing my cold and dark test. And this is exactly why it's not that much of a... That's interesting. Batteries are off. That was interesting. And it's still set at 10 degrees. and now it's up, and there it's up again. Yeah, thank you. For example, if you set that lever to full while the actual flaps are up and your door is, well, I don't think if that's an issue. If your door is open, that your flaps hit the door edge here, but there might be someone standing there or whatever. That's why it's always good to do a cold and dark test for this very, very reason. And I noticed why that happened because my switches were not reset, so I think that triggered it. Anyways, parking brakes are set, live vest and stuff. Let's pretend that that's okay. And fire extinguisher in the green and stuff. Door is closed, window is closed, ELT. Let's pretend that that's set to auto, or it is set to auto, but it's not interactive at all. Flap lever is up and the flaps are up. Yes, my mixture is working, my throttle is working, my trim is set. Let's set the fuel tanks to both. Cutoff is in, alternate is in, avionics are off, all the switches are off except for the beacon light, that's okay. And that's off as well, and again my switch panel is working, wonderful. The purchase is signed by ATC, then the issue SMS whether I confirm that we have it, then I swap. Yeah, that makes sense, Keith. Yeah, okay. One is at 30. Yeah, exactly. It's barely a difference. All right, thanks. But it just, again, procedurally, I'm just interested in what the rule would be. Sid, Tim, do you have a link to that GPB 500 gene for PilotEdge? Googled it and couldn't find it. Yeah, Greg hasn't. He's working on a website, but it's still not up. Guys, anyone in the chat knows how to get GPBs? I found it via a forum link, I think, on the org, and then got into contact with him. What you could also do, I think I've streamed it on my own YouTube channel, UncertifiedPilot on YouTube, where actually, it's also in the title, I think, of one of my YouTube movies there, where I also give an overview and I visit all of the airports that he made and just show you how beautiful it is. So that's perhaps also a way to get it. But it's a bit weird. He should make a website, obviously. That's cold and dark. Wonderful. Also like to check my control surface to the right. That one goes down, going down, and that one goes up. Yep. Looks good. Trim tab works as well. Rudders work too. Okay, battery is on. Again, fuel is enough for this nice little trip. Avionics on. Transponder is off VMC. That's good. Then let's go down with the flaps. Just see if they work. We were flying with the Reality Extension Pack. I should have actually upgraded to version 3.4.1. Hadn't got the time yet. This I'm not interested in right now. This is all good. Annunciator messages look good. Airport elevation. Here at Santa Barbara, we're at 13 feet. Yeah, that makes sense. So close near the ocean. So that means that once we read ATIS, it should be somewhere around 29.92ish, 1ish. Oh, it's actually going to be 29.92 because I set my own weather. So that whole ATIS issue is not an issue for today's flight. It was, again, just an intellectual question, I guess. I set my own weather just to be in the clouds when we're doing this approach. Yes, good. Looking at my heading indicator, obvious gyro drift. We're at around 15. Yes. Okay, 14 degrees, yeah, and even though I set my own weather, we could run into some freezing levels. I don't know, we'll have to see, so be wary of pitot tube heat and also just enginizing and all kinds of other dangerous stuff. We'll have to see if that is if that's an issue. I will just reset the weather. I'm not interested in doing those failures right now. Okay, I was also wondering, I think I saw Keith doing that in one of his streams a very long time ago. I'm studying also IFR departures from non-towered fields for my next stage of training. There's also so much to learn already. And using a stopwatch is very, very handy. One for void times, for clearances, but also for your expected altitudes that you're, in case of lost communications. And so ideally you like to have two stopwatches. And I know we can use one here, but I saw him also using the transponder, or that might be not this transponder in the 172. Perhaps also we can use the GPS for a timer, an additional timer. Or I can just use some other timer on my iPad here, but it would be cool if we could use actually 2 timers for that, so we're always in check. Anyway, set is a set, avionics off, that's good. Throttle, bit in, fuel pump on, positive fuel flow, that's good enough for me. Fuel pump off, again parking brakes are set, no one is walking around, so clear prop. Mixture full in, ignition back to both. Oil pressure is already in the green. 1200. Alternator on. We see a rise in the ammeter. Good. Let's lean for ground. That was already past the peak of RPM. Good. Set to 1000 and allow that engine to warm up. Avionics on. Let's become visible to on the radar. Mode C 1200, and now we can set some frequencies. Alright, flying with the Reality XP, as you know already. And again, this is also something that I need to study a bit more. I also have the King School's GNS series, video course series, which is a bit too elaborate, a little bit too slow pace, but it's good to know what these things are actually doing. Even though I'm a slant alpha kind of guy, it's good to know what the GNS is actually doing. For example, these self-tests, so I'm just clicking through these because I'm not interested in those, but I should actually, even though this is just all simulated. I'd like to know what's actually going on. Alright, what frequencies do we need? Well, first off, San Marcos, obviously, so 114.9. We don't need any other kinds of frequencies other than this one and the localizer, and our missed approach. Yeah, so that's Guadalupe. I'm not going to fly that one, missed approach, so I'm going to ignore that. So that means that we actually use only one stack of navigation, I think, which is standby, or the active currently in San Marcos, and standby the localizer. We're just going to swap once we are on track there. And that's also a nice feature that I wasn't not that conscious of while I was before I started studying IFR flying, is that next to just the intellectual challenge of just understanding the procedures and appreciating the system and knowing what to expect from ADC and stuff in your airplane, obviously when you're flying in IMC, is also how to manage your information flow, if you know what I mean with that. So using all of your systems, building in redundancies, using your GPS, that's also something that well, the King schools do mention it, but they don't really demonstrate you, opposed to the real world IFR video trainings by video course by PilotEdge that I also have access to, which shows you so many scenarios where that stuff really is a lifesaver. When you've got things figured out, you've got redundancy, you know what you're doing, you can switch around, and that's important. And I'm noticing that I'm still in my infancy, I guess, using all of these. For example, now my nav2 is just useless. My nav2 stacks. I'm just using my nav1 right now. So to be very, very conscious of the equipment that you have and also use it. And don't give any frequencies a free ride, as the King schools would, as John and Martha would say. Let me see. Nav1, yes. 114.9er. 114.9er is now in the active, and the localizer, what was it? 108.9. And again, guys, reverse sensing. This is going to be weird, challenging, perhaps. I'm going to fail this flight. Starboard not necessarily needed. Just note wheels uptime. But Keith, there are two times, right? That, I mean, you've got your, from a non-towered field, you got that void time of your IFR, just your IFR clearance. And that's the time between once it is issued until the time where you contact departure, right? And say, hey, I took off and here I am. That's the time that you have, the time window that you are given to, or requested to get going, right? And next to that, you also have the initial altitude 2000 and expect 10,000 after 10 minutes of, well, and that 10 minutes you should also time, and that's from when your when your wheels are up, I think so. You need an radio tuning schedule strategy when tuning approach. Exactly. And I'm just getting started with that. So 114.9er, that's San Marcos, and my localizer is 108.9er. Yes, and it's set to the nav1. Good. We already set it here. We got a reading, and I see RZS 6.1 nautical miles. That gives me a good indication. But let's see again. San Marcos RZS. So that's a nice feature again by the GNS here, that it already automatically identifies the VOR for you. When I'm going to build my own Skyhawk and X-plane, like you know, I like to leave this stuff out initially and just be completely slant alpha. So we also developed the habit of tuning in and identifying VORs. I did a ILS approach a couple of streams ago where I was signing in, and I was actually picking up the wrong VOR frequency, and that can really mess you up. So it's important to verify this this stuff based off of my own experience here. So that's good, and we got 108. Oh, that's the wrong 108.9. Can we already? Yeah, and you can see the localizer. We can already pick up 41.1 nautical miles. That's good. In terms of our San Marcos frequency, I like to be a bit more prepared. I don't know what we're going to get assigned when we depart here. I guess runway 25, or a straight out departure. I'm not really. I don't really know, but I do like to fly to San Marcos, and also I'm going to request fly following here, so to already coordinate my intentions here to already fly to San Marcos and start the approach. I'd rather discuss that, negotiate that request here on the ground, than while I'm flying here following these departure instructions and have only 6 nautical miles to write all of that stuff down. And perhaps we're not even allowed to do that, I don't know. So I'd rather do that here on the ground. But San Marcos, I was thinking about already sending a different, or a OBS here that makes sense, but I'm not really that interested. It should be something northy, so let's set it to north here. Okay, and then obviously once we tune into the localizer here, this OBS doesn't do a thing because a localizer only sends out just one particular radial. In this case, it's the inverse radial that we're capturing, and then we got that reverse sensing going. What that means is that usually when you capture a needle, this is your airplane, right? And this is the particular radial or track that you like to fly. So you're turning to the right here, depending on what heading you're flying, to catch that needle. But now, because it's reverse sensing, we're flying the back course of the localizer. The thing works just the other way around. So it's almost like pulling the needle towards the center. So if we like to pick up this reverse localizer sensing needle position, I need to fly to the left to pull it to the center. And that's the trouble that I'm in today. That's going to be the challenge. So that's going to be interesting. Let me see. Yes, a clock solves both of those cases. A timer isn't specifically needed. Oh yeah, that could also be a clock, obviously. Yeah, obviously. Yeah. Oh, was there a clock perhaps? Or a timer here, yeah. I'd rather use a timer, but obviously you can also just note down the time and based off of that know what your void time... yeah, of course, of course. Oh, this is so interesting. Then you can observe the needle moving in on nav2 while tracking nav1. Then when ready to join the localizer, you swap nav1 to tune the localizer. I've attempted to put the localizer into nav2 while tracking the radial on nav1. Yeah, because for the localizer we don't need any vertical guidance, so the nav2 is as good as the nav1. I've attempted to put in the localizer at nav2 and then while tracking the radial on the nav1. Then you can observe the needle moving in on nav2 while tracking nav1, or to join in the localizer swap. Yeah, that can also be done. Yeah, in this case, because I'm swapping, there would be time. Yeah, I actually totally agree with that. Yeah, because now when we swap, I lose track of. I mean, in a way, we're intercepting a new radial from already being on a radial, right? So rather you would have both of those inside at the same time. Yeah, I agree. Then I will do it. Yeah, nav1. Let me see. That's going to be 108.9, and then nav2. That's going to be the San Marcos 114.9. So there it is, 104.9. That's set, and that's the localizer 108.9. Yes. So yeah, this thing doesn't do much. We do have a reading already, but apparently, yeah, we don't have any glide slope reading. I would expect to see something here, but I guess identifying a fix is not the same as having a nav1 reading as such. Thank you for the follow, Beatty. Thank you, appreciate it. We're burning a lot of fuel here, guys, but it's a sim, right? And I really like this pre-flight stuff and studying. Yes, so again, northeast. So the advantage of now separating those frequencies or using the nav1 and the nav2 at the same time, obviously, and I did this also in previous runs, I don't know why I thought about this as well for today's flight, is that we can fly now on this particular section, and we still keep track of the fact that we do so, that we stay on this radial to a 9er, while at the same time we notice when the nav1 needle is going to center, so we know once we hit the center and then fly, and we can forget about the nav2. So that's totally that totally makes sense, or something of that order. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Key. Yeah, exactly. Let me see. Okay, guys, sorry for taking such a slow pace approach, but this is also my own learning. Again, my whole channel is actually designed, started on the basis of just getting experts in. So many of you are already so knowledgeable of IFR flying, you can teach me how to improve my flying, and it worked. That worked pretty well so far. So I'm also really much enjoying your tips and suggestions here. Okay, so navs are set. Now we need our frequencies, right? Communication frequencies, I mean. Santa Barbara, I also have it here as a chart. There we go. We are currently parked over there, Atlantic Aviation. We're actually a bit there. Yeah, general aviation ramp, I think, or let's be a bit more specific, south ramp, and yeah, we're going to do our initial crest cold call, VFR, flight following in a way. We're just giving the ATC, the controller, a heads up of what we'd like to do, and yeah, it's going to be probably, I'm expecting just a very basic taxi to runway 25, even though we need to go that direction to get to San Marcos. And I think it's even left-hand traffic patterns. ATC can be quite flexible and just assign as a right base or a right crosswind departure or something, or just a northbound departure. I don't really care. We'll have to see. Okay. And frequency system. Where are we? Let's just use this sheet. ADIS I'm not really interested in because we're flying with our own weather. Clearance delivery, that sounds good. 132.9. Currently in the active, we should hear something. And ground control 121.7. Alright, that's good enough for now. We don't have any other comm frequencies to spare or to use. Then my scratch pads. Yeah, so again, I need to organize myself here. Yeah, so again, the localizer DME back course approach doesn't have...
365, it's Joshua departure ident.
Just disable there the COM1 for just a moment. It is not already set for a particular runway, I guess because it's a back course approach. So I think I can just say that we like to fly the localizer back course approach backcourse alpha approach. There might be more. I think there's only one. Backcourse alpha approach into Santa Maria for runway 12. That implies that we like to circle. But there might be other approaches as well just to get into 12, even though it might not even be the active runway for Santa Maria at the moment. So again, this is all for practice. Either way, I can make myself clear again. So localizer, backcourse approach, backcourse alpha approach into Santa Maria for runway 12. And because it's practice, it's always good to be specific about if you like to fly the full approach or just a part of the approach. You can also just request vectors of final, which is usually the case when you're flying IFR, is that ATC will just shortcut the entire approach procedure and just give you some vectors to just fly to the final approach fix, and there you're. Just capture the localizer, and there you are. In my case, I'd like to just, because we're also at Santa Barbara and San Marcos is very nearby, I just like to fly this chunk as well. So I will be specific. Runway 12 from San Marcos, Vortec. And we have our own weather, and we're at the south ramp. Okay. Keith, spoiler alert, it's going to be a runway heading with a 1500 feet restriction. Right, that reminds me, I think I departed from Santa Barbara a long time ago as part of my VFR flights, I think, and that rings a bell. Alright, 1500 feet. Yeah, and I guess that's because there might be other instrument routes or other approaches or departure routes overlying Santa Barbara, and so they like us to keep down. But I eventually like to go up to, that's also important here, that initial section here, if we're going to fly the procedure as published, that's first section. Again, those wavy symbols there means that this is not to scale, so that the approach plate designers can still tuck in San Marcos Vortec on the plate. You can see that's 14.9 nautical miles. This is 14.1 nautical miles. And that starts at 6,000. But however, ATC is God here. So I'm also going to be specific whether we need to fly at 6,000. Perhaps ATC is just going to say, well, Tim, just stay at 4,600. I don't know. In either case, we've got mountains there and other kinds of terrain. But if I don't hear anything on that front, I think I just fly 6,000 in any case. We have enough mileage to go to get down. Okay, engine is already warm enough, so that's good. So let's sign in. There's one sip of water. I'm so thirsty. We ate pizza, and it was so salty. At least my pizza was. So, my gosh, delicious though. But okay. Sign in to clearance delivery. Com is on. All right. Santa Barbara clearance, good day. Skyhawk, Papa Hotel, Tango, India Mike, with a VFR request.
PHJ, I'm Santa Barbara clearance.
Papa Hotel, Mike is a Cessna Skyhawk, Slant Alpha, currently at the south ramp with our own weather. We'd like to fly to Santa Maria today and practice the localizer backcourse approach, Alpha into Santa Maria, and then circle around to runway 12. If you can accommodate. I'd like to start at San Marcos with our approach procedure.
PH10, Roger. So you want to do a VFR flight with the practice?
Affirmative. Hotel Team Mike.
PH10, Roger. On departure, fly runway heading. Maintain VFR at or below 1,500. Departure frequency 120.55. Squawk 5011.
At the departure runway heading below 1500, departure frequency 120.55 and squawk 5011 for Papa Hotel Tango Mike.
PH10, read back correct.
Alright. And Keith was right on the money.
Janet 365, contact Los Angeles Center 125.27.
Advisories to Santa Maria via San Marcos. That's a abbreviated thing. Then I advise the approach controller that I want to practice. Then I advise the approach controller approaching us. And why would you do that, Keith? Why would you why would you only start with your approach from the approach? I mean, it makes sense because it's an approach, obviously, that you like to do. But in this case, I'm on the ground. Also, from the pilot side, it makes sense to do this on the ground. Or perhaps that's just PilotEdge specific because we are all talking to the same, pretty much to the same controller. But I'm curious what the reasoning might be. Otherwise, I would.
Otherwise, block. Was that?
I would do that in my next flight as well, to only do that with the approach controller. Let me see. So 120.55 squawk 5011.
Last time center commenting follow 190.
That's clearance, and we're ready to go because we're already prepped.
21 Sierra, climb, maintain 15,000.
Switch to the ground frequency, and now I'm interested in the tower frequency already.
Van Nuys clearance, Aero 623 Lima Sierra, IFR to John
119.7.
Aero 623 Lima Sierra, Van Nuys clearance on request.
119.7. Okay, good. And yeah, let's just keep this approach right here. Again, I'm expecting runway 25 here as a straight out departure and stay below 1500. The nuance of the approach and specific runway you want to circle to are not in the domain of interest of the SBA controller. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I know already in my mind that he's the controller that will be at approach. Yeah, okay. So in the real world, obviously, you would do that with the approach controller, and that's also why I should, yeah. No, obviously. I totally understand, yeah. Okay, okay. Yeah, at ground, let's get a pace going, guys. I'm so sorry that I'm taking so much time, but I'm really loving this stuff. Yeah, but I'd also like to have a scratch pad. Although I should be able to do this without any scratch pad too, but anyways. Santa Barbara ground, Sky Hotel Tango, India Mike South ramp with our own weather ready for taxi.
PHJM, Santa Barbara ground, runway 15 left. Taxi via Bravo Charlie, cross runway 25 at Bravo.
Runway 15 left, Bravo, and then Lima, and cross 25 at Bravo, Papa Delta Mike. What's Lima?
That's Bravo Charlie.
Bravo Charlie, Papa Delta Mike, and then 25 at Bravo. Clear riding, Tim. I couldn't read my own handwriting here. Okay. 15 left, that's different. So again, let's take some time. 15 left. Yes. So we are departing from from here. So I guess that we need to go north, right? So I guess he's going to give us a left downwind departure. Also gives us some time to get up.
SCIM, Bakersfield ground, stand by.
So that is good. And then it's going to be Bravo. Let me see. What did he say? Did he say Charlie? I remember something with Charlie. 15 left, Bravo and Charlie.
Mooney 1G, it's here.
There's Charlie.
We're gonna have to pull you off the arrival here in a second here. It's a jet only procedure. I know it doesn't say that, but just a hint for the procedures that don't say turbojet aircraft only. Look at the speed restrictions.
COM1 is disabled for now. Yeah. So this is a bit confusing in the sequencing. At least to me, it's a bit confusing. So the taxi route from here is Bravo and then Charlie, because here's Charlie. 15 Charlie to 15 left. And because that's our route, I'm going to cross 25, and he says, well, and then before you need to cross 25 at Bravo. That's the idea. Okay, good. Alrighty, parking brakes released, brake test looks good. There's track IR. Oh, we're tucked in here. Pretty jets. Turn indicator, slip indicator, everything is running there. Attitude indicator is stable. I will do my multi-engine rating in Flight Simulator and at PilotEdge as well, guys. My next season. That's the topic. That's going to be the theme. Let me see. Here's Bravo, looking at the taxi diagram or a taxi sign. We're clear. There we go. reset this one to 1.5 in case we're going to need to fly some departing procedure thingy. Let me see if I can read the chat and taxi at the same time. It does affect the instructions that you're going to get. That's interesting. And yes. Oh yeah, sorry, not. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, obviously you're gonna tune in at approach control. Yeah. Alright, we're currently at Bravo. Makes sense still. We're across Alpha. You can see already some red taxi signs, so that indicates dangerous stuff. Red is dangerous, so that means also put some lights there. Already cleared to cross 25 at Bravo, so that makes sense too, but always double check because you never know. Again, at Santa Barbara, there only happened to me once where there was still someone on the runway or in or landing. Good. FBO to the right. I don't care. Still at Bravo. Crossing. Everything is clear. It looks so pretty, guys. Again, GPP 500 scenery. And there's Bravo and Charlie. And I think that's the run-up area. So let's use that. I'm a bit nervous, to be honest, to fly this back course localizer approach and then also do some circling. Alright, we don't have any significant wind here, so I put my little skyhawk like this. Engine is already warm, at least the oil temperature is already good enough for me. Mixture full in, that's good. Fuel tanks were set to both. 1800, there we go. No unshaded messages, oil pressure, everything is still stable. Instruments are all stable, good. Left mag, good enough drop, back to both. Right mag, good enough drop, back to both. Vacuum is also in the green. Back to idle. Still no unshaded messages, oil pressure still in the green. Looks good to me. At 1000, let's do our control checks to the right. That one goes down, that one goes up, that one goes down, and that one goes up. Presumably up. Trim, yeah, just some double check there. Okay, let's brief. So I'm gonna take off. We have our nav 2 set at San Marcos. We're gonna get some kind of departure instruction. I guess a right or left hand departure, downwind departure, something like that. San Marcos is over there ish. We're gonna go up, even though we're flying VFR. In this case, obviously it should be IFR flying, but I don't care. It's just practicing. We're just fooling around here, but we'll be in the clouds. So we're going to go up and get to San Marcos, and once we hit San Marcos, we're going to fly that published approach into Santa Maria. That's the idea, and hopefully we'll have a reading of this of the localizer once we're nearing our intermediate fix. That's the idea, and we're going to go up to about 6,000 feet. First, our runway instruction, that's always good. I forgot about this several times, especially with airports that do give you departure instructions. Runway heading, that's what the instruction was. Runway heading. And don't go any higher than 1500. And 120.55, so that's also good. So we are now signed in with Tower. What's also not really appropriate, or it's not really good for me, not done correctly, is I turned off my COM1 frequency, so I wasn't in contact with the controller, which is not good. Thanks, Keith. Thank you for the help. Hey, Sirius Max, good to see you, man. Good to see you. Hey, have you got your PPL yet? Nope, I don't. And it's, yeah.
SEIM, go with.
got myself stuck there with calling myself the uncertified pilot, so I shouldn't get certified anytime soon, Cirrus. I'm going to buy a plane to train in. That's good, Cooper.
SCIM, Vegas okay. Ground, Roger, runway 30 right, taxi via Alpha Bravo.
So 1500 runway heading,
right, Alpha Bravo,
lip flap sets. There we go, guys. A little bit of nose down trim I like. Landing lights on strobe.
Palm Springs clearance, American 3050 is IFR 2.
American 3050 Palm Springs clearance on request.
Set some parking brakes here, even though those are not really that strong.
We want to just hear Roger, stand by.
He's saying stand by, so I'm gonna wait. He's busy. Yeah, runway heading 1500 feet. Stay below 1500 feet. At or below, so 1500 feet is going to be our target altitude for now. We're going to sign into departure, and the departure is going to say, well, go ahead. That's what I'm expecting. Yeah. Now waiting for a time for us to do our call. Perhaps they're... No, they're not switching controllers, I think. Hello? I will just do a call. Santa Barbara Tower, Sky Papa Hotel Tango, Emax, holding short 15 left, ready for departure. He's busy. So guys, what's happening in the world of flight sim? Any good news, any new software, any new stuff that's on the horizon that I should know of? Especially when it's related to study level flight sim practice. I'm really looking forward to some better weather engine stuff like Xenviro, even though I like the default weather system as well.
Van Nuys ground, Aero 623 Lima Sierra at Signature West with Charlie ready to taxi for IFR.
Aero 623 Lima Sierra, Van Nuys ground. You say west route?
Signature West, correct.
Aero 3 Lima Sierra, Roger, runway 16 right, taxi via Alpha Charlie.
16 right via Alpha Charlie, 623 Lima Sierra.
PHTIM Santa Barbara Tower, runway 15 left, clear for takeoff. Wind 140 at 7.
Clear for takeoff, 15 left, Papa Delta. Alright. Again, clear and clear. Make sure in lights are on, ready to go. That's the first time, departing 15 left. I did land on 15 left once. Also when I was coming from the north. Lines up with our heading indicator, good. Full power, a little bit of right rudder. Airspeed Saliva engine is in the green. We also got full RPM. 50 and 60 rotates. There we go. A bit nose down to VY. Alrighty. 100 feet AGL. Still, we could make the beach here if we've got an engine out. Still we could. Some fields.
And when you want to do this, Sierra, anytime you get disconnected, after you've got your clearance, you've talked to clearance delivery, don't refile the flight plan, please.
Alright, anytime now?
Writes over everything we do.
Anytime now we're gonna...
PHTIM radar contact. Seattle.
Currently 700 and climbing, Papa Delta Mike. Again, ATC thinks we're flying VFR, and clearly we are not. Just for practice. Alright, 500 feet to go. Drifting off a bit, as you can see, looking at my compass. Can we see the runway? Too late. Alright. Still runway heading. Let's put our nose a bit down. Let's not be too bold. Alright, allow the airspeed to increase. Good old instrument flying, guys.
PHT on contact departure.
Auto departure, Papa Delta Mike. Switch. So for departure, Sky Papa Tango Mike, level 1,300 and runway heading.
PHT so got Santa Barbara departure, cancel out the restriction, resume on navigation.
Resume on nav and cancelled altitudes. Good. There we go. I'm gonna go up. Resume on nav, so we're free to go. So let's turn around and grab our San Marcos. We're pretty much on that radial. So full power. And again, try to trim out here. Standard rate turn is nice.
I want you to steer right to the approach request.
Come on, Tim. Get up.
1G at steer, roger. I'll pass it on to the next controller.
Get up. Get up. Focus. Good. Yes. Why wasn't I at full power? I thought I was.
American, shoot.
And again, my target altitude is 6,000 feet for that initial approach fix. Now northerly is good. What do we need to fly? Yeah, about north. Oh. Don't go too much up, Tim.
Phoenix Airport, Cathedral 1 departure. Palm Springs, direct Blythe and its file.
And go up.
7,000.
Concentrate.
Level 2301, 0 minutes after
Steady
departure.
climb.
Departure frequency 126.7, squawk 5046.
Okay. I love this, guys. It's so much more challenging.
3050, maintain 7,000. Expect flight level 2301, 0 minutes after departure.
Okay, we're tracking the San Marcos radial up north. That's good. We're still climbing. Now, what's interesting, which is currently on my mind, is we're also topping out. That's also good.
3050 record, accept this Cathedral 1 departure, Palm Springs, direct Blythe and its file.
Looking at our approach, we need to be at 6,000. That's our MEA for flying San Marcos. We're not going to hit 6,000, I think, before we reach our San Marcos VORTAC. So that's interesting. We're flying VFR. So we can just circle to get to that altitude first. I think. Also, I'm curious about the
SEI Bingstill Tower.
ATIS 121.15. I mean, we're not going to check in because it's my own weather, but just for practice sake, 121.15.
And here in the upper mic. Make left close traffic for midfield each time.
Okay. Oh, that's in the active. Yeah. Okay. So pretend that we're now listening to ATIS, like Keith instructed before we hit San Marcos, our initial approach fix here. We'd like to have our altimeter already and put it in. So far so good. Landing lights can be turned off. 7 degrees outside. We do have moist, so clouds forming. So let's also put on our pitot tube heat. Engine is good. Fuel is good. Still climbing. Nicely trimmed. Bit to the right. So far, so good. I am losing track here of my needly.
25 for 1G at Sierra Contact Las Vegas.
Currently flying north, and we're actually not flying north. We already have some gyro drift.
541 Juliet, Sierra on the Las Vegas approach, Las Vegas altimeter 3007.
Okay, I'm getting too comfy.
Discretion, maintain 11,000.
So, we're still climbing. 6,000 is our altitude. We're catching that needle. That's good. Once we hit San Marcos, we need to fly 286 radial outbound.
Number 623 Lima Sierra Van Nuys Tower. Roger, runway 16 right. Cleared for takeoff. Wind calm.
Yeah, so we're gonna set this one is gonna be from reading and 286. Yes. Okay. Reverse sensing, guys. Reversed. Localizer back course approach into Santa Maria and then circling around to the other runway. That's what I'm going to do. I set my own weather just above minimums. This is it. Alright, radial. It's already running a bit away from me. 5,000 feet, 1,000 to go. I think we're not going to make it in time. But I would expect it not be a problem because we're practicing.
India Might traffic, 1 o'clock, moving 12 o'clock, 4 miles, westbound, tickets 5,300, 5 button on.
I'm looking for the traffic bar with Tilting Mike, thanks. Where is that traffic? 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. Don't see it. But be careful, I'm currently at my fix. I think we just passed it, waiting for that from reading. Still, we've got that traffic issue. I don't see anything. From, good. Still keep that climb going. We're gonna fly 286. Okay. Pull on that yoke, Tim. Still climbing up. Already past 3,000 feet, so I should already have leaned. I'm doing that right now. So this is also a challenge for me. Fly the airplane first, right? So I'm so focused on the approach, it's just the procedural flying, that I forget to fly my own aircraft. Okay, there's 6,000 coming up. We leaned, we can perhaps lean a bit more even. Also saves a lot of fuel. Sounds good. There comes the needle. We're flying. We have a from reading, but we're also flying from away from the vortex, so we can just use the same old.
I am on the option.
Same old sensing, needle capturing.
Sierra Canada departure.
And boom, and 6,000 down. Good.
Or 63 Lima Sierra Sierra departure rating contact, I maintain 5,000.
There we go. There goes our speed. Let's reset our RPM to cruise. I'm thinking about something, and that is that I think I know why Keith said that he would set the localizer to the nav2 instead of the nav1 for now. Because if I look at my approach plates, we can go to 4,600 once we are, once we are 14.9 nautical miles away from the San Marcos vortex. But I don't have DME on my nav2. And we don't have a cross-reference here. So nav1, 114.9 was it, huh? Yeah. So switch, quick, so I'm not interested in my localizer just yet. Oh, sorry. I just switched my nav1 back to 114.9, was in the standby. So now it's reading San Marcos as well. And now we have a DME.
Fly heading 080 to Victor
4.9. So we still have 10 nautical miles to go. Yeah, so this is, well, not really proof, but this again emphasizes that I'm running intellectually just running behind my approach, which is not bad for a third attempt at an approach, but I should be already, my mind should already be at the capturing the localizer already.
Jan 365 kind of Los Angeles.
Alright, still engine is in the green, everything is good. My compass, we're now 29-ish, 29-ish. Looks good. And we pretend that I've already checked in with ATIS. Okay. No, Falcon, not yet. Not yet. No clearance yet for the approach.
Janet 365, Los Angeles.
But I guess that does that mean that I
correction cross Oceanside.
That's a good question actually.
Olympic altimeter is 3002.
I requested to fly this approach for practice, but I didn't hear the approach controller or departure controller say you're now clear too. I'm expecting that we will hear something like that soon, but I'm already flying that published section of the approach. That's a good one. So am I actually allowed to do this? Hey B1, good to see you. That is a good one. Yeah, Falcon, I guess so as well.
Maintain 14,000.
Also because there's a controller change here. Let's do that.
Number 810, Romeo Bravo, Bakersfield ground. And what's the destination airport code?
I still have 7-ish nautical miles to go before we can go down to 4,600.
118.8, squawk 2641.
So,
correction, Romeo Bravo, departure frequency 118.8, squawk 2641.
Bit off of my needle. Also down of my altitude, by the way. Come on. Can trim up.
Romeo Bravo,
also just give a little bit more power.
118.8, that's 1880, 18.8.
Sokol approach, Skyhawk, Papa Hotel, Tango on your mic with a request.
Romeo Bravo, read back correct. And TIM, go ahead.
Just for notice, I'm not sure. We're currently flying the approach localizer back course approach Alpha into Santa Maria, and we're already flying the first initial leg. I'm not sure whether you are aware of that, just to let you know. We're not cleared for the approach yet. If that was clear enough, I don't know.
Papa Hotel Tango Indian Mike, price approach approved, maintain VFR.
Approach approved, and we'll remain VFR, thanks. Just a heads up, Papa Hotel Tango. Well, welcome, thanks. Yeah, 0.
0 Romeo Bravo, where you parked?
Exactly, I know 0, but as Falcon already tells you, I already requested a practice approach at the ground.
30 right, taxi by Bravo.
And again, this emphasizes what Keith was saying. Rather than requesting that on the ground, even though I like it as a pilot because I have all the time in the world just to negotiate my IFR practice approach, this is the guy that's going to coordinate it. So it would be better indeed to just say, just let me off VFR, and then once I'm in contact with the approach controller, this approach controller, this one, then request. Alright, 14.1 nautical miles, we're at 13 right now. Almost 13. We're clear to fly this approach.
Yeah, India, my current way 30 right, good option.
I think because he didn't clear me for this approach, even though I asked it at the ground at clearance at Santa Barbara, which is now weird, I will never do it again, lesson learned. I think that this controller also doesn't know that I would also like to do circling. I'd like to land at runway 12. Because that was the idea, right? Also like to do a circling approach. If it all works out, we should
365
just leave.
Maintain 7,000 contact SoCal approach.
The cloud base here to be able to do that. Zero practice approaches on IFR clearance. No, that's true. That's true.
Jan 365 negative at 7,000. 7,000.
14.4. 14.9 is our Q. Still going a little bit off track. Looking at my nav tube. 2 degrees outside, so good thing that we turn on our PilotEdge tube.
Jan 365 SoCal approach, Roger Limburg altimeter, so 3002.
Double check my heading here. We're at 50 nautical miles, so let's go down now to 4,600. We're now at Mado. Alright. And we should be there. We have 14.1 nautical miles to get there. But that goes all the way down until we are at Cokes. Once we're gonna
Number 1 Juliet Sierra.
grab our localizer.
Number 1 Juliet Sierra cross Boulder at or above 6,000. Cleared VOR Charlie approach. Henderson expect circle. Runway 35 left.
Yeah, that was the symbol that I was looking for. If you look at Cokes, we've got 2 DME readings. Obviously one, and that's the one of the localizer. That's the 11.6, so that's from that direction. But we also have 2.9, and that's the added up DME symbol thingy of RZS, and that's the San Marcos Vortex. So 29, that's our Q. 29, we should be able to capture the localizer. Really clear to fly this approach, so also that section.
Crosswinds ground with 3-1 left, taxi via Whiskey Alpha.
Either case, we should be also switching off to tower at that time to get clearance to land. Obviously, 118.3. It's already set it in the standby. I don't know if we got another frequency change, but if not, we are prepared. And once I'm at Cokes, we can also wait for clearance here to land. I will also again inform the approach controller that we'd like to circle to land on runway 12.
Right 10 Romeo, Broadback Shield Tower, hold short runway 30 right, got traffic just on the roll.
Yeah. And we're not remaining VFR 0, as you can see. This is just practicing and fooling around. Actually, I should have done this in IFR, but I'd like to practice these approaches in isolated ways, even setting my own IMC weather. So it's a bit weird why I'm flying this as a practice VFR approach. Because clearly I'm very eager to fly into the clouds, actually. Alright.
3 Lima Sierra, contact SoCal approach 135.4.
280. Let's descend a bit more. Not that we need it, but...
Jan 365, we're going to give you vectors here in just a couple miles, and we'll get you descended down and get ready for your approach into the North Island Airport. You have an approach request, let me know when you have the weather.
Now at 2.9, DME will be at the localizer. So once we at 2.6, I'm going to switch my nav1 back to the localizer, obviously. You can already then set it to, well, it doesn't really matter, the OBS has no value then, but so that we'll see the actual capture of the localizer, right? That's the idea. That's the idea.
Jan 365, fly heading 090, contact SoCal approach 124.35.
Okay, so still we're on this section now. 4600.
810 Romeo Bravo. Runway 30 right, we have takeoff.
There's the localizer, but a back course localizer. So if we're flying this with a regular ILS or a regular localizer,
Cat 2, say again.
Once we switch over to the localizer frequency, you would expect that line to be here, right? Because we're approaching it from the right. If that was a usual localizer, but because we're now flying the back course approach, once I'm switching to the localizer, this needle will actually be on the other side.
Send those tower, make sure runway 29 cleared.
We need to reverse fly the thing. Yeah, let's see if I can do that. That was 4,500, very good.
power.
Or 63 Lima Sierra SoCal approach,
Alright.
Ontario altimeter is 3000.
Few miles to go.
Jan 365 SoCal approach, the Limburg altimeter 3002.
Let's put on our landing lights as well. I'm curious. 23 nautical miles away from San Marcos.
Sierra Echo India Alpha Mike runway 30 clear for the option.
I also need to look at the profile view here. So once there, we need to drop down to 3,000 in 5.8 nautical miles.
Number 229 Tango Alpha affirmative, make straight in runway 29er, clear to land.
First I'm going to wait once he clears me for landing and then say we like to do a 1-2 circle. "25 nautical miles. That should actually be 4,600 there, yeah. Already
Aircraft, is that 75 Lima uniform?
100 feet too low. There's a mistake, even though it's 100 feet, I was wrong. Okay, we can fly this heading. That's good. Let's switch
Lima uniform,
to the localizer. That's the localizer. Boom. Yeah, as I expected on the other side. No glide slope.
Uniform runway 30 taxivat hotel.
Just
Bravo
for the
7,
sake
what's your
of
request?
my own referencing, let's put that at 300. We should be
It's gonna
able
be Hotel Bravo 7 and say request.
to see a capture there.
Lima uniform, roger.
This is going to be very, very weird. I need to go down.
Jan
3,000.
365, what's your approach request again?
Oh, I'm anxious, guys. Please pray for me. And I'm also higher, which is not too bad, but 4,600 was the idea. Waiting for that line to cross over, and then it's reverse sensing. I need to work the other way around. There comes the line. I see some wiggling. Engine is still looking good. Mixture, I totally agree. There comes the needle. Don't fly towards the needle. That's the idea.
Okay, 30, 50 pounds per hour, went through and like we have a takeoff. Wind, variable at 3.
Now, luckily we're flying a 172 going slow. So imagine doing this with a jet, then things go much faster.
We're 0, I'm Bravo contact departure.
We're all doing this by hand, no autopilot. 4,600, still slowly the localizer is creeping in. And once we hit that point, .6. We're already at 11.6. Looking at my DME from the localizer, so I can
10 Romeo Bravo, Bakersfield departure radar contact.
already start to descend here to 3,000. Looking at my charts.
Janet 365, fly heading 190 vectors to the approach.
Making my turn to 30. 0. There we are. On the approach, 90. That's good. Okay, guys. Nice descent. That's trim.
Lima Sierra, instead of maintain 4,000.
90 knots. That's good. Now it's the other way around. Now I would actually, with the usual localizer, fly a bit to the left. But it's now the other way around, so I need to fly to the right. To
Papa Delta Tango India Mike contact Santa Maria Tower 118.3.
over the tower, Santa Maria, Papa Delta Mike. Santa Maria Tower, Skyhawk Papa Delta Tango India Mike on the localizer back course Alpha approach for runway 12. I'd like to circle around if that's okay.
Papa Delta Tango India Mike Santa Maria Tower Approved as requested, runway 12 cleared to land.
Runway 12 cleared to land. Doesn't work. Ha! Okay, good. We need to go.
Lima Sierra, contact SoCal approach.
Going down, still strong. I'm now pulling the needle towards the center again, as you can see. There we go. Get back to 3. There we go. Still getting a descent going.
365.
And as I rehearsed,
Cleared, direct.
I should not descend with
Pokey.
500 feet, but 800 feet.
Pokey.
Bit
At
quicker.
above 5,000. Cleared VOR, DME runway 29er approach.
Because I need to be at my point at Kenko, 5.8 nautical miles. I should be at 3,000. So we still have, we're now at 8.6. Alright. We're going into the soup, guys. Hoping I set the weather correctly. Alright. Localizer's fine. And again, the
American 3050 contact departure.
big
Departure American
asset
3050.
flying any kind of instrument approach is stabilized approach. Trim.
Sierra Echo India Alpha Mike, left hand downwind runway.
If I was not
30 right
trimmed,
for a full stop land.
my gosh. Okay, so we're going down. 7.7.
Sierra
500.
Alpha Mike, 230 cleared to land.
Roger, clear to land runway 30 right.
500
Sierra
feet to
Echo
go.
India Alpha Mike.
American 3050, SoCal
Still
departure.
going
contact
strong.
climb, maintain 12,000.
Nice and stabilized.
We're 63 Lima Sierra, SoCal approach, downwind altimeter 3000.
Man, I'm focused.
And,
Sorry
expect
guys, you might be chatting, but
ILS runway
thanks
20
Falcon.
approach.
Okay, pulling the needle a bit to the right, so again, reverse sensing. 200 feet to go. Just slightly.
We're 63 Lima Sierra.
6.6 nautical miles. We just made it. Alright, we cannot go any lower than this. Bit more power. That's also a challenge with a step down approach. You're constantly changing your... Because you're stepping down, you need to change your power configuration. Opposed to ILS approaches where you can just stay at the same old glide slope. Alright, 6.0, 5.8, and then we need to go down to 1720. Alright, there's 5.8, and again, there we go. Going down 800 feet per minute.
Or 1 Geo Sierra, contact Henderson Tower 125.1.
Good, 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 good. 1720.
Henderson Tower, good afternoon. Mooney 541 Juliet Sierra's checking on the VOR Charlie approach.
541 Geo Sierra, Henderson Tower. Circle east the field for a right down, runway 35 left, clear to land. Wind 040.
Now we were just cleared to circle to 1-2. That means that we can do whatever we like. Left hand or right hand. Come on. Focus them. Come on.
We're 623 Lima Sierra. Is
1720.
5 miles from Pilgrim, fly present
2
heading,
miles.
maintain 3,000.
We're now at 4.4.
Cleared ILS runway 20 out approved.
Santa Maria Tower, Pepper 751 Lima Uniform, ready runway 30.
751 Lima
Still going strong.
Santa Maria Tower 30 clear for takeoff, straight out approved.
Clear for takeoff, straight out approved for 1 Lima Uniform.
Papa Hotel Tango India Mike, traffic will be part runway 30 for, departing to the northwest prior to your arrival.
Currently in IMC, Papa Hotel Tango Mike. We're practicing VFR in our own RMC weather, so that's why. No worries. That's a bit confusing, obviously. We're flying VFR, but I'm on IMC, so I cannot see any other aircraft. Focus. Alright. 1720. Pulling that needle to the center and back again. 1700.
San Luis Tower, Baron 229 Tango Alpha.
It's coming in.
29 requesting handoff to ground.
Alright, 2.5, looking good. Yeah, that's the challenge. Reading the charts and flying at the same time. There's 17, 20, already passed it actually. Bit more. Pulling a little bit to the left. There's 2. And there's 2.0 and go down.
Transient.
Minimum heights, 1100.
Frequency, 229 Tango Alpha.
Now guys, let's see if I can make this. 1100. Oh, let's pull. Pull, Tim. Pull.
Sierra Echo India Alpha Mike, request taxi from Golf to flight school ramp.
Man, this is challenging. One notch of flaps. Push down, push down. Not too extreme. Not too extreme. Localizer getting much more
Sierra
sensitive.
Echo India Alpha Mike, taxi to parking by Alpha. Have a nice day.
Roger, taxi by Alpha. Have a good day. Thanks. Bye. Sierra Echo India Alpha Mike.
Alright, alright, alright. Good. Still on the money. 1100. I've never been more focused in my entire life. Alright, go. I'm using the yoke to go down. That's not good. Trimmed, stabilize, use the force, Tim. 1100 coming up. Are we gonna break out of the... Yeah!
American to 3050, sorry about
Oh
that
yeah!
contact, LA Center 126.35.
Alright. 1100. Should have stayed there. I was just celebrating too much. Cannot go lower than the NDA. So we need to stick there. And now, the circling bit, I expected it to be something like a traffic pattern, but it's actually not. It's more like, it looks like, pretty much like a traffic pattern. But the NDA is usually lower than the traffic pattern, also to keep you away from the VFR, possible VFR flights over there. And it's also narrower to the runway. We cannot go any lower.
365, no traffic search, we need the field. Put off a cancellation, this approach this frequency, change passenger frequency approved.
Thanks, Falcon.
Arrow 63 Lima Sierra on the LS20.
Base grab. So as soon as we have...
clear to land, wind, variable at 4.
20 right, clear to land.
As soon as we can make a landing, then we can ignore the NDA. That was challenging. So in a way, we're flying a traffic pattern. And he said just clear circle around. He could also say, well, circle east and enter the left base or something like that, or circle north or circle whatever. In our case, we're just free to do whatever because there's no one around apparently on PilotEdge. So now I'm a beam the numbers, so now I can ignore the whole NDA. We have a visual. Let's already set one notch of flaps at 20 degrees here.
0 Bravo, contact LA Center 135.
We're already clear to land, runway 12. Turning around. Watch that speed now, Tim. Don't stall now. So interesting that I'm so focused. I was so focused on flying the approach that it's a bit of a transition in my mind to just fly VFR again. But imagine that in a real-world setting, it could be the case that it's not just overcast like this, but that it's actually raining right now, and you're clearing the cloud base, but then entering rain showers, snow, wind, fog, all kinds of other stuff. Imagine doing this at night with those weather conditions.
Santa Barbara altimeter 3002.
All right, full flaps. All right, there we come in. Santa Maria. And nose up. Airplane, you decide when I like to land. There we go. Crossing the runway here. Flaps up. Bit of power, so we expedite our exit. Follow the yellow. Do we have a yellow? Why don't we have a yellow turnoff here? Yeah, okay, so that could have been a little bit more of a rehearsal. Could have done that also while we were at the downwind-ish leg. See what exit we like to head. I already spotted that first taxiway, but apparently we didn't make it. So that could be a tick on our... that could be a note for next time. because you like to get as fast off of the runway as possible to make it clear for any other aircraft. On what taxiway are we? Alpha 4. We made it, guys. Oh yeah, I'm proud. That was exciting.
1 Juliet Sierra taxi parking by Delta this frequency. Have a nice day.
All right, 1,000.
Taxi parking
Then
by
lights
Delta
off.
this
Strobe
frequency.
lights off.
Thanks for
I didn't
one
set my
Juliet.
mixture. Damn it. Damn it. Again, fly the airplane first. I'm so focused, so involved with flying the approach that I forget to do that. Still a tower, yes. Let's get the scratch pad. I don't know what instructions we will get. Santa Maria, tower, Sky Papa Hotel Tango, and your bike is clear off runway 12, taxi to the tower.
Papa Hotel Tango, and you might taxi to parking by Alpha.
Via Alpha to parking, Papa Hotel Tango.
Limber clearance.
He didn't
Skywest
say
1221 IFR to San Jose.
Switch to some kind of frequency, ground frequency, so I will just remain here. And via Alpha, right? He said.
Skywest 1221 Burger on
Is this Alpha? That was not a good question. I'm expecting this to be Alpha, but otherwise he needed to say Papa first. So I think this is Alpha. Must be Alpha. But that's not the way to do things. Yeah, this is Alpha. Take your time. And there we are. They opened up the hangar for us. That's kind. Not gonna risk taxi into the hangar and get a crash because I'm not quite sure whether X-Plane can handle this. I guess it can handle it, but I'm not gonna take
Gentlemen
risk.
Tower, Aero 63 Lima Sierra is clear.
And
20
there
right
we
now.
are.
Hotel will be parking Atlantic.
Oh, right.
63 Lima Sierra taxi to parking by Hotel Alpha across runway 20 left hotel.
Transponder off, so we're not bleeping. Back to 1200.
Parking the Hotel Alpha across 20.
Avionics off. Pitot heat. I also didn't turn my pitot heat off, guys. So that's the same mistake as not the previous stream, but the stream before that. Let's check the magnetos. Off and both. That looks good. And now we can cut off. Alright, ignition switch. Batteries. Parking brakes. Prevent crossfeed. And there we go. Man, thanks, Dad. Thanks, bro. Move layer skill, thanks. Good landing. Thank you, guys. Man, I feel like popcorn. That was challenging. Okay. Let's get off of PilotEdge. And I always do a review. Let me see. So, localizer back course flying. It was unusual, but it wasn't that difficult. What really helps is talking out loud. It also helps just to stream your flights because you need to talk out loud. And be constantly aware of what you're doing. That pulling instead of flying towards the needle worked pretty well. What also worked pretty well was my step down approach. Went much more conscious, much more mindful, much more controlled than last time. And that also made it a little bit more challenging, much more mentally consuming than last time. And the challenge is you need to look at your nav1 and then look at your chart. And not only the chart, you're not only looking at the altitudes, but you're also looking at the DMEs, right? And while looking at your instruments and flying by hand and stuff. So it's quite some multitasking. So yeah, a non-precision approach is called a non-precision approach for a reason. That's also why those minimums are usually a little bit more higher than with a precision approach with the ILS, where you are provided vertical guidance through your cockpit instruments, because then you have all your information in your nav1. There's only one spot where you can look at. And now, yeah, we need the controllers are relying on pilots, and pilots can make mistakes or not be that precise. So that's why. But this went pretty well. Also, again, I totally understood why and experienced why it's so important to get an early step down. So to descend faster than that initial glide slope, faster than 500 feet. minute, 800 feet, especially for that latest chunk, because then you're already out of the clouds. That's exactly what happened in my case. And even though I didn't reach my missed approach point, I already had a visual, and I could have already circled around to land. One thing though, I missed with 100 feet or so that minimum decision height. I was descending a bit more down once I had the visual, also a bit because I was celebrating I did it, and forgot just to give in power, because I was not allowed to go any lower than at 1100 feet MSL or 839 feet AGL. So that was a bit sloppy, but not too much of a big deal. And that's the same for that 4,600 for that initial leg. In my mind, suddenly it was 4,500. And I don't know how those mistakes just creep in, but they did. Also, in terms of not rehearsing or planning my approach enough, also in terms of what Keith was suggesting or mentioning, radio strategy, radio management strategy, I was mentioning that as well as part of my pre-flight briefing. But not so much that I understood that I needed my nav 2 for that San Marcos radial flying, and at the same time being aware of my localizer coming in, so I can watch my nav 1 and nav 2 at the same time, and then capture it like I did just now. So I needed to rechange my strategy while I was flying, which was unnecessary because I did this kind of strategy already many times before in previous streams, but somehow for this flight I wasn't aware of that. So thanks, Keith, again. That went well. Yeah, and also that's also an interesting note with the approach controllers. Up till now, I'm requesting my practice approaches under VFR, which is totally ridiculous, when I'm already at my departure airport with clearance. And I say, clearance, this is what I like to do, just like to take off. And it's also because my destination airport for these practice approaches are very nearby. So usually my first fix, my first navigation fix, is already the initial approach fix of the arrival of the approach of my destination airport. So I'd like also departure to know that we are already on our way to get to our initial approach fix. However, and that was quite apparent also for this flight, and also in the real world, it makes much more sense to request your particular approach with the approach controller of that section of that airfield, obviously, rather than clearance delivery. Yeah, and that would also help me in this case, because there was obviously a shift in in controllers, and the controller didn't quite know anymore what we said to the other controller before him when we were still at Santa Barbara. We like to do a practice approach, a localizer back course, and circling. So we needed to do all that stuff all over again once we were actually doing the approach. And because we had such a nuanced, such a creative way of doing our approach, yeah, exactly like Keith was telling. So that might be something for next time. That I should rather just do my initial, my approach request, my particular approach request with the first approach controller that I'm talking to once I'm nearing my destination airport, rather than doing that at clearance delivery. It doesn't make sense in the real world, obviously, but you can see it also messes you up here on PilotEdge, so that makes sense as well. Yes, so those are lessons learned, but I can do this. That's weird. I can do this. The next slide is going to be weird, guys. If you think that this is interesting, be sure to follow me or join, jump in the cockpit for my next stream when I'm going to do a LDA approach, but a really weird one into Van Nuys Airport, where we're going to use the localizer of Burbank, so another airfield, and we're going to approach Van Nuys Airport completely perpendicular. So right at the side. So the runway is like this, and we're coming like this. So we also need to circle to land. We're coming in like on the downwind leg, as if we were coming in VFR. So that's going to be interesting as well. That's what I'm going to do in my next flight, next stream. Anyways, we're disconnected. Yes, let's review our landing here. Boom, 2,000 feet looks good. Close the door. So yeah, here was I coming in. This was 1700s. Still going down, still going strong. Look at that. I was also quite aware of gyro drift and heading indicator stuff, cross-checking. That was also very important with my first instrument approach. I was forgetting about that. Speed on the money, steady. I had some moments where I lost it a bit. Yeah, and this is also challenging of non-precision approaches, because you're doing stepwise approaches. You're also changing your power configuration all the time. So you need to stabilize your approach multiple times while you're doing the approach. That's also an additional challenge of non-precision approaches, at least to me. And I guess what really helps you is knowing what RPM setting gives you a steady descent given your weather, current weather. So again, here you can see I'm a bit off, a bit too much off. So pulling the needle in. Final leg. Turning on my avionics here so we can see, hopefully in time. So now you can see I'm also putting in my flaps, also changes the power configuration obviously, but I still managed to go down. 1100 was our MDA. ILS 12, do we have a DME reading? I guess not. So here we are. 1100. Boom! And here I should have pulled up already, because I cannot cross the 1100, right? So here I was celebrating, which is nice. It was 75 feet too late, but that's okay. Yeah, we're gonna do that, the Van Nuys approach next time. And then, yeah, it was circling. Now, we didn't get any specific circling instructions, so we could do whatever. We could go left or right, and as long as we initially stick to the MDA of 1100, once we are beam the numbers and you can make a safe, continuous glide to your runway, then you can start your descent, obviously. But imagine that, usually with low ceilings, chances are that it would be raining here, and also bad visibility. In this case, I had very good visibility once we left the cloud base. So this is relatively easy, but in the real world, what we're going to experience also ourselves in some future IFR flights, where we're going to do circling, you also have 1 mile visibility and rain, or you can even be at night and you see multiple runways and you need to orientate yourself. So circling, at least by the book of the King schools, but I think in general it applies. It's the most challenging, also most risky, most fast way to get yourself killed as a pilot. It's the most dangerous procedure, circling. Yeah, and there we went. I'm not quite interested in the landing just yet. Let's have a general look at our... Yeah, so you can see the step downs, right? So here we took off, bloop. And here we're flying from San Marcos, from here to there, to catch the localizer. And this was the first step down. I'm just curious to see. Can we see? This is a bummer why X-Plane doesn't show you this in the clouds, but okay. So step down, we're going down, 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 and here step down, and we're going down. And this is the final chunk, and there we just came out of the clouds. Very, very interesting. Okay. Let's look at this landing. Nose up, nose up, nose up. Main wheels first. Slowly nose wheel. Perfect. Very good. Yeah, and that was another thing. Yeah, I was already seeing the exit there for the taxiway. I thought, no, I'm not going to make that. But the next taxiway exit, at least in my mind, was... Perhaps I could have taken an earlier. I see all kinds of taxi lines over there. Oh yeah, this was the runway. yet that I wouldn't like to take. And I also didn't take this one. Oh, because there wasn't a taxi line here. I don't know if that's deliberate though. Because it does seem like a legit exit, but I took the next one, which is a bit exaggerated, I guess. Just get off the runway as quickly as possible. So I'm now just strolling along the runway. That's also a note. Okay. Oh, that doesn't sound good. Does it? It does, luckily. I thought X-Plane was about to crash. Alrighty then. That completes my localizer back course approach with circling. That was challenging, but so much fun. It really relies on quite technical flight skills, and I'm really noticing how all of my preparatory flight skill work, just flying on instruments, flying on partial instruments, all of that stuff that I did at the beginning helped me to develop already confidence and familiarity with flying on instruments, and that really helps me now with ILS flying, I think. So that's really cool, and I'm getting more and more familiar with these procedural instrument procedures. Very cool. Again, as I mentioned, my next instrument approach is going to be a LDA approach into Venice, but choosing the localizer of Burbank Airport, and we're going to fly or approach Venice exactly perpendicular on the runway. Have a look at sky vectors already, see what we're going to do. That's going to be really interesting. That's what we're going to do next. Perhaps no, not tomorrow. Perhaps Thursday or Friday, we have to see. So if you're enjoying this stuff and learn as well, I'm hoping that there's some new stuff for you guys to learn as well. Feel free to jump aboard and encourage me, cheer me on, but also suggest any ways for me to improve my flying. As always, that's very much appreciated. Again, 737 Vector, thank you for the follow. IMAC, thank you for the follow. Beatty, thanks for the follow. And Keith, also thank you for your suggestions and tips and corrections. I much appreciate that. Falcon, also thank you for dropping by. Dad, thank you all guys. Always appreciate your presence here. And as always, happy flights and blue skies. Bye. Palm Springs Tower, Skyline to Hotel Tango. Link is 10 miles north of the airport at 3,000. Information X-ray. Full stop. Landing 13 left if that's available.
Hotel Tango, India Link, Palm Springs Tower, squawk 6250.
6250.
Hotel Tango, India Link. Palm Springs altimeter is 2985, radar contact about 10 miles west of the Palm Springs VOR. Presently landing runway 31, you're requesting straight in for 13.
If that's available, yes please.
Correction, Papa Hotel Tango, India Mike, make straight in runway 13 left and clear to land. Wind is 0905.
Clear to land, runway 3 left, Papa Hotel Tango, India Mike, thanks.
Palm Springs, Cheers, Glass 4658 is type PC12 slam call request Cheers to Vegas S file.
Call is 4658, Palm Springs clearance. Good afternoon, unable to give you S file, and I'll be forward to demo. Call is 4658 is cleared to Las Vegas Airport. VFI Cathedral 1 departure procedure to Palm Springs. Victor 370 to 29 Palms. Victor 538. Cresso. Join the Cresso 3 arrival. Maintain 7,000. Expect flight level 2405 minutes after departure. Departure frequency 126.7, squawk 6316.